Welcome to Ashes to Love podcast, hosted by Marta Miner, with guests who have walked through fire and emerged stronger than ever. Let their stories light up your way.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our podcast and our pop-up coffee chat here. Marta just held up her mug because she's the mug lady. Loves a good saying on a mug. Who doesn't? It's so awesome. I used to think it was like super cheesy until I have my whole selection of let me identify with my mug this morning.
It's like a major part of my
Anyways,
life.
it is. It is. I'm gonna get you. I'm already thinking of your Christmas gifts next year and how many cheesy sayings I'm gonna put on mugs for you in well-designed ways so that you can have a
Thank
happy
you.
moment in the morning with your coffee or tea, whatever. We have been evolving in this podcast and been noticing that something that's working for us and for everyone are these coffee chat pop-up vibes. What's in the field? Let's just talk about it instead of having to think through big scenarios. And so much is in, I say the field. What I mean by that is that I'll have a conversation with Marta over text. I'll go into a client session. I will talk to my son. I will hear music on the radio. And it's like something that comes around me that week, some sort of theme that is exactly my growth edge. It's exactly what I need to hear. It's that thing, that invisible hand that's like looking out for me. In my tradition, we call her the Kundalini Shakti, the goddess in India, that is like this redeeming quality of the universe that I
Mhm.
feel very connected to. And so, what I love about what we're doing here and this invitation that you've given us, Marta, is that just pick what's there. And
Mhm.
what's there this week is survival, acting and choosing based on having to survive versus
Mhm.
I'm alive, which comes from that distinction for me at least. Marta had shared something and I had started listening to Sia because I'm obsessed with her. And if I'm ever in a bad mood, I just have to listen to her and run down the street in my little
Naked.
Texas village. I keep the clothes on for the benefit of others, but I would love it if I but I love her because I think that so many reasons. She's absolutely talented. Her voice is amazing. But in this specific song, what was interesting to me, Marta, and then it aligned so much with the story that I'd love for you to share about coming back from or coming here from Poland. And that is she had a song about survival. Like it was about
Mhm.
adversity, like deep adversity. I grew up in a thunderstorm, like very beautiful language around hardship and instead of singing the song, "I'm surviving," she's singing, "I'm alive." And what was so moving for me, or the aha for me about that was like, Ushi, what happens if you don't make a choice about surviving? What happens if you start making choices because you're alive and you love it? I'm alive.
Mhm.
I'm alive.
Mm, mm,
I'm
mm.
not, I'm, yes, all these things are happening, but I'm alive versus I'm surviving or even thriving. It's none of that. It's I'm alive. So
Mm.
I loved her words, Sia, if you're listening.
Yes. Please come on a podcast.
Please, yeah,
Tell us
please.
what happened in your life that made you write this song, right?
Yeah, and the learning to say I'm alive versus I will survive,
Exactly.
which is I know is a song, and I also that song is beautiful and I get it, but I just thought for me where we're at right now and what I was experiencing this week and the stories that you were sharing, I really was like, I'm deciding I'm alive. That's what I'm
Mm.
deciding. Yeah.
So beautiful. It's so beautiful. We chatted about it, and good morning, everybody. We chatted about it a little bit because for me, I'll share my story a little bit. My most of my life has been about survival. And you wear it as a badge of honor because you're so tough and you're so strong and you've survived so much. But at certain point, it becomes like a hindrance on your life and it actually causes more issues than it helps. And when you said that, oh, Sia has this song, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a completely different mindset to operate from I'm alive versus from I'm a survivor. You know what I mean? And people, some people, because they've gone through something really tragic and or very health challenges potentially or some other things, they wear that badge of honor. I've survived, right? But it's a very different energy to go through life as a survivor versus as I choose the path of light. I'm alive, I'm free. It's just different. And I'll share like what it means to me as a survivor and how it's impacted my life in a positive and negative way. When I came to America, I think that's when it really kicked into the next level because I was here alone. And
Yeah.
I had a marriage for a short period of time where didn't work out. And I, unfortunately, I was left by my ex-husband without any tools to be able to survive. I didn't speak English yet at that point, like barely, not enough to communicate. I didn't even know who our landlord was, and he left the house, and I didn't know how to call a landlord to say, hey, I don't know if I can even pay rent. I didn't drive a car very well yet at that time. He took me to a lot of appointments at that point. I just moved from Poland. So that I was unable to care for myself in a lot of ways. And at that time when he left, I was broken, devastated. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And then I made a decision. It was at that pivotal moment in your life where determined which direction I'm going to go. And I decided I'm going to be successful. I'm going to survive. I'll never depend on a man again. I'll never be in that vulnerable situation. And that started
Yeah.
forming my new personality that kicked in, the survival instinct. And yes, I did. I did become successful and I did achieve everything on my own. And I was rolling with that. But at a certain point, I noticed that it's not serving me. And I knew that from going to different therapists. And she said it one time. I went to a hypnotherapy session with a really good friend of mine. And she said, Marta, you don't have to survive anymore. Look at your life. You've already
Right.
made it. You have great friends. You have great business. You have people that love you. You've arrived. But I'm like, but I can't turn it off. Like when you identify with that so much, I have to
Yes.
press, I need to move forward. It's what we talked about in one of our episodes with feminine energy. I stepped into more of a masculine energy where the survival instinct is so strong that you're just going, hitting the wall and going past that, right?
Yes.
And I realized that in a lot of ways, it really hurt me. It made me a little bit more too tough. It made me too demanding as in personal life and also in business. Like that perfectionism kicked in. And then a lot of times, like it robbed me out of joy because the survival instinct, it works for a while. When the lion chases you, you do have that instinct to survive and it's good for a little bit. But after that, it becomes like it robs you out of your adrenaline, like your adrenaline's so high, it robs your body out of all the juices that make life really fun. Like that joy is missing. So I definitely feel like the survival part in certain portions of your life is nice to have. But really, I just want to be a princess right now. I just want to be princess. I just want to be taken care of. Like, where's the knight that will come and climb the tower and rescue me from being that survival? Because I'm working on it. I do a lot of therapy, but it's so ingrained in me that survival instinct, no matter what, I will take care of myself and my daughter. It is not living out of what Sia says, I'm alive. It's a very different energy. So I'm in the
Yeah.
process of switching right now because I'm going through a big transition in my life and I'm encountering a lot of really tough things that are trying to make that survival kick in again. And I'm like, listen, you're on a crossroads right now. You can either kick in that survival into a whole new level. Man, you're going to become an Oprah in a few years, or you can just relax and
Yeah.
go into, hey, life is beautiful. I'm alive. Choose to look in different direction.
Yep. I'm choosing to look in a different direction because I'm alive versus in reaction to something that was hard
Hmm.
and a muscle that I learned but don't necessarily need to flex anymore.
Mm.
Because I think I've shared this before, but I when I met you and also interestingly talk about the field, so many international women who have immigrated and now work to the US. Someone from Korea, someone from Italy, someone from the Ukraine, someone you from Poland started to work with me very recently. I've always worked with women who are living in the country, but this last 2 years, it's been a lot of women who have come to the States and who are, as you said, nothing, like surviving, figuring out. It's not an easy system to figure out. And what it's put me in touch with in a very beautiful way is my parents, because I was the firstborn here and my parents are the ones that immigrated in. And it's hearing your stories of survival and why you make the choices you make for your daughter, especially your daughter, it
Mhm.
really put me in touch with I get the chills right now. Oh, that's what they were doing.
Yes.
They were surviving, and it's
Mhm.
okay because at that time, that's exactly what they had to do. My parents certainly had family that could help them, but ultimately meant at that time when you immigrated to the States, you could only bring $7. They had
What?
$7. Yeah, that was the rule back then. They had $7 and an uncle who sponsored them.
Yeah.
But when you're in that situation, when your livelihood is being sponsored by somebody, they become the god. You have to think like
Mhm.
them, you have to do like them, you have to please them because your livelihood and what you're giving to your kids is inextricably linked to that
Yes.
person. Thank God, my uncle that was linked to loved us. Thank God.
Mhm.
And had that sense to the point where that was when I was growing up, my second grandpa, right? My other one
Mhm.
was in Africa at the time. And so he was that figure. But just imagine, I remember one time we were raised vegetarians and he was like a staunch vegetarian. And I remember going to my mom wanting a hot dog so bad, right? The other kids had a hot dog. They like those freaking hot dogs smell so good, even though whatever, they're not that yummy. Depends on who you talk to. You talk to my kids, they're amazing too. But I wanted a hot dog. And I remember looking at my mom making this choice, right? She's probably 24 at the time, in a new
Yeah.
country, in a new family, because she's married in and it was like semi-arranged. So she's in this new world. And I can remember her looking at this hot dog situation. I want my daughter to be free. I want her to try it. But oh my God, I don't want anybody to see it. And
Mm.
for so long, I was mad at her for not just throw caution to the wind, mom, and be who you are. And
Yeah.
mad wasn't really the word. It was more like hoping for her. I was like, be free, be who you are. Like, what's wrong?
Mhm.
As a 4-year-old, I wanted that for her.
Mm.
And only this year, when I've heard these incredible women like you come into my world, like having a similar kind of dynamic with their daughters, did I think, oh, look at what survival does to people.
Mhm.
It is a
Mhm.
necessity in life, but that frame is diminishing. It's a shackle. It's okay because now my mom's journey has come. She's alive, trust me. Like that woman is killing it, right? She is alive.
Mm.
And it's
Mhm.
so wonderful to watch. And she is free in some ways. And in some ways, I'm sure she's also ever evolving. But it's really important if you look, there are people who are really surviving. And if you are really surviving, you got to really survive. I get that.
There are those
Yeah.
times, right, where
Yeah.
survival is necessary, yeah.
Yes, and it's a very like, to tell a single mom that she has to go now thrive and flourish and be all these
Mhm.
things, I don't believe in that either. You're
Yes.
surviving, good on you, do what you gotta do. That I'm talking about what you're saying, which is then when that is done, like, the inner voice and the behaviors and beliefs that came with that, the muscle is no longer needed. Now it's time to be alive. Now it's time to
Mm.
love your life. And so there's a very long way of saying that I'm just seeing how even for me as the daughter of immigrants makes choices to survive, right? Like fitting
Mhm.
in and belonging. These are things, instinctive things in our body, survival instincts.
Mhm.
I don't have to do that anymore, and I still do it, is my point.
Mm.
And it's like, how do we all flip that switch
Mm.
so that we can first of all, one thing we're gonna all do is rock out to "Sia, I'm Alive," get it in our body, and let me listen to her lyrics. She's not talking about a rose-colored life, not she's talking exactly that,
Mhm.
adversity, trauma, coming back from that, but I'm alive. Like, how
Yes.
beautiful to honor your existence. I'm alive, I have breath, I have
Amazing.
beingness.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I love first of all, I really love the fact that you can see your parents through listening to me because there comes a time in our lives, especially when we become parents, we understand our parents a little bit more. But you had to see almost like on a friendship level what I go through to understand your parents, their decisions.
Yes.
And that's super beautiful. I love that. I also had that with Laura St. John. She shared her story, my really great like motivation and amazing coach out of California, and her mom is pretty much so Laura is like my daughter, and I was observing that. I'm like, "Oh, I'm like her mom, so that means my daughter can be Laura." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, how beautiful is that?" Her mom struggled so much, so Laura can have it better, and my daughter can be that. So it's beautiful to observe each other in those situations. And also, I feel like when you said, "Yes, when is it the time to just be alive?" That survival instinct is amazing that we have that, right? And at some point, the lion stopped chasing, but you're not looking back to see if he's still there. You just keep going with that because you're just so used to running from the lion. And at some point
Yes.
they said the lion is already in the cage. Like he stopped chasing. You're like, are you sure? I'm not really
Yeah.
sure. I need to keep going to survive. And also trauma lives in us too. Like when you say that you're a child of an immigrant, but you still have those behaviors, partially because it's in your bloodstream. Your mom gave you some of that. Whatever she experienced and that stress and fear and whatever she had it gets passed on. And you've also observed it. So it's both. I also come from Poland where we've had a lot of stuff like Holocaust, for example, right? Holocaust
Mhm.
was a horrible thing that my grandpa lived through, passed on a lot of that to my mom and my mom to me, and that lives in my body. Like certain
Yeah.
behaviors, certain fears, certain things still live there, even though I'm maybe the third generation. So it's not
Yes.
as easy as to turn off the switch and I'm not in survival anymore. It doesn't, you just, it requires a lot of work and self-awareness, which I think we're hoping to bring to other people that maybe are operating out of that mode. Because if you've already survived and you're good, like the lion stopped chasing you, it's time to do work on yourself to start thriving right now. Turn that switch. It's not a switch. It's not, I wish there was a switch. If there was a switch, I'll pay a lot of money for that switch. Okay. There is
Bottle it
no
up and
switch.
sell it. Yeah,
I just
totally.
like when I was getting epidural,
Totally.
I told my doctor, I'll give you my Range Rover. Thank you. I even write, I'll give you my house at this point. Just put this needle in my back. I was so happy. I'm feeling the same way about the switch. If there is a switch where I can just say, hey, I'm just easygoing from now on, like the most easygoing person in the world, I will pay a lot of money for that.
I
Unfortunately, it
know.
doesn't work this way. It's a lot of work on yourself and noticing like where are you operating from these old patterns that don't serve you anymore and catching yourself on that.
Yep. Yeah, I think I don't know that this is a switch, but I think it's a question. I have a coach for every aspect of my folly. Like I have the mindset coach, the business coach, but I believe in it. I think that we need reflection and
Mhm.
I think again, I'm not sitting here advocating that everyone needs those coaches, although I will say some of the best athletes in the world have,
Yes.
people reflecting things back to them. It's not the point. It can be a friend and it can be somebody that that just says that asks you, is this choice that you're making out of survival or is it out of purpose? I think would be the opposite or love of life, right? This is the thing about
Mm.
working out. You can work out because you love your body or you can work out because you hate your body.
Mhm.
And you might even lose weight because you hate your body, but do you have the joy and do you have, the muscle mass and do you like all the there's lots that you could, show in terms of what the difference is when you love your body, what happens versus when you hate your body. And that
Mm.
has been a switch for me. Am I doing this because I
Mhm.
love my body? So for me, the question does feel like it doesn't flip the switch, but at least it stops the insanity of
Mhm.
going through the same motions that aren't working because you think it's working, because you think it's helping you survive.
Mm.
But I also think what's very interesting is we're going to have to call somebody with the generational trauma wisdom and techniques because even if you have this switch that you don't sometimes I'm like, "Wait, whose trauma is it? Whose is this? Is this mine?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like mine. It's not my
Yeah.
story."
Yeah.
So why is it so almost like I'm feeling it in my bones,
Yeah.
right?
That's what
What
I'm saying. It's
I'm
passed
feeling it
on.
in my bones. Yeah. And yeah, this is the funny thing. Somebody called your Ushi, your family, they're survivors. Doesn't that make you proud? And I was like, huh? But it's gonna make me more proud when there's no reason to survive
Yeah.
anything. Like they were
Mhm.
coming from British rule. Like, duh, of course they were surviving. Like they're being oppressed. No. How about this story where they get to live a life they love? How about this story? It's like you get these, it sounds like you're getting complimented, but then you're like, no, again, did they survive? Yes. Are they resilient? Yes. Do I love
Mhm.
that about them? Yes. But the whole notion of surviving is that you're in a diminished position and you're lesser
Mhm.
than.
Mhm.
And I'm not. That's what I'm alive says. I'm not. I am whole. I am who I am. And so can I make my choice from here? And I don't think we live in a world that gives people that right now. I think that systemically there's so many reasons why people have to survive, right? But
Mhm.
if we can ask our questions like, okay, because maybe in this moment I do have to survive. That's my question, and I'm okay with it, and I'm gonna honor myself for choosing it. It's just when it's on autopilot, when it totally
Mm.
sends me in a spin, right, is when I'm on
Mhm.
autopilot. So, first of all, I will commit to bottling that up and selling it if I can find the switch, but for
Please.
now
I'll be your first
but
customer,
for
please.
exactly, but for now, I really love that you are just like the question of it. "Oh, what am I doing this for?"
Just notice. That's number 1 step is notice because the train is going and it's going really fast in certain direction. And if you can at least slow down the train, you're already winning. And if you can stop the train, I'm not even saying reverse it, just stop the train, let it ponder for a second if this is
Yeah.
the direction in which you want to continue be going. And then what impact does it have on the next generation? My survival will play a role in how my daughter feels. My daughter is you, right? So you've observed so much of your parents' survival that it's sitting in your bones. Some of it is through observation, some of it is through the feelings that you had as they were living and surviving in that world. And also, I'm like, do I want my daughter to have this trauma of the survival, or do I want her life to be just, I'm alive? So we
Yeah,
make an
we
imprint on our children too.
yes, and here's why. Here's what's distinct for me, is that I grew up in privilege, right? Because they survived. The early years were tough, but there was a point in our lives where it was like, "Cool, we're like middle class Americans." There was like I remember even I think it's because I know now because 'cause I'm older, but in the midst of it, I remember the shift. I was like, "Oh, I got a CD
Mhm.
player for Christmas." Like,
Ah,
it just things started shifting, which
yeah.
probably created a certain level of entitlement too in my brother and I think we were fairly grateful children, but I'm sure we were very bratty as well and, "Oh, we deserve these things," and my poor father, he's, like, working, and my mom, we work, like, overtime, and then we come home, and this is what Ryan and Nico sometimes are like, "I don't want this," and I think to myself, go get it yourself then, because it's like
Mhm.
there was that aspect of us that was I very much see, like, how dare I, after an 18-hour day, tell my dad that I'm mad because my food tastes like whatever. Anyways, that wasn't the point. The point was that it's the privilege to dream is what I have.
Mm, yeah.
So, despite the generational trauma, I can sit here and say, "Ushi, are you on purpose or are you not?" And that's the thing. Beyond the question is I'm about to go get this tattoo, right? Like, never forget, Usha, you have the privilege to dream. You have the privilege to do it differently. So use it. Use it. No guilt. No, I'm not saying I'm not trying to do the crack whip. It's more again, I love you so much, life. I love you so much, parents. I love you so much, my existence. I love you so much, Ushi, for your story. So now enjoy that privilege of the dream. And that
Mhm.
to me is where I stop to perfect or build in the most amazing way or have all the right words or show up like perfect. That's where the perfection drops because it's, no, I have the privilege to dream. I love my life. I'm alive. And there it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
And your parents paved the way so you can have it easier, and that's just rite of passage, and it's beautiful, and gosh, do I want my daughter to be Ushi one day or Laura St. John, like, I would love that because I did have a lot more struggles than I think one person should have in one lifetime, but if my daughter can benefit from that and become Ushi and just be the light that is there for other people, that is so beautiful. It's worth all the struggle. And
Mhm.
I'm not going anywhere yet. I hopefully can switch the switch. I've been through moments in my life where I switched the switch. And I would say the biggest thing that helped me if somebody's struggling with that, just like I was, I started meditating on a regular basis and just turning off my brain because the brain of a survivor person continues to go and press forward constantly,
Mhm.
right? You're always running from the lion. But in meditation, and for other people, it may be walking in the woods or whatever, like being in the water, surfing. For some other people, I turned off my brain enough. Like I've practiced that for a couple of years, and I stopped surviving. I really started thriving. Really, it was the most amazing part of my life. But then challenges started showing up for whatever reasons we're not going to discuss today that took me out of that again into survival. And I'm like,
Mm.
why did I give up my meditation and stepped into the world of let's fix it again? Let's go. Put those big gloves on
Fix
and
it.
let's
Yeah,
fix
that's
it.
another
Let's
one.
fix what's not working.
Perfectionist. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Something's
then
wrong
you
with me. Yes.
in this
Yeah.
situation, it shouldn't be this way. Let's fix it. Let's work really hard. And then I'm like, but you've just gotten the proof that all you need to do is just turn off and just allow your life to unfold. Don't be pressing into that survival because, yeah, it will
Yes.
get you somewhere, but it will get you there very anxiously. And you don't want that result. So I would say turning off your brain and centering yourself, listening. For me, it's God and meditation and reading the Bible. And like those things center me and take that survival instinct a little bit away. It can't be fully turned off, probably, but it helps to be
It
centered, you
helps.
know?
Oh, yeah. For me, it's the walks. I have to listen to the birds and walk. I
Yeah.
remember one of the big flips in my life and is that I took a year off to walk.
Mm.
Again, privileged to dream. I slept on my parents' couch, although it wasn't a couch, it was a beautiful guest room. So it's
Yeah.
like, thank God for my parents. First, I want to say that I do feel grateful for them even more every time I talk to you because of what you just said is that I think that is exactly what my parents chose. And I think it's what my grandparents chose. And I think I don't know my great grandparents, but I would think that where we are as a family today, it's what they chose too, which is it is hard for me, but I'm choosing to do this because my daughter can someday do this. I
Mhm.
know I'm the benefit of that kind of lineage of thinking. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. And not just in my family, even volleyball, spiritually speaking, there's so many great people that came before who decided what you decided is that this struggle has meaning. And so people will benefit. And so I am a beneficiary of that.
Mhm.
But I had lost my way. And I say it very much like that around, I think it was like 30 where everything looked great on the outside. The money's there, the great job is there. I had the cutest boyfriend in town at the time, even though he ended up cheating on me.
Mm.
Uh, but it looked good. It looked good.
Mhm.
And I kept it up because it looked good. And I felt a sense of, like we talk about, arrival, validation. There's all these things that I only know now because I decided to take a year off. And, I do talk to a lot of women who have it all together on the outside, but feel broken on the inside. And it's not a victimized broken. It's more of a like, wait, where did I lose myself along the way? And that was
Mhm.
me at 30. And I took a year off. And all I said to myself was that I'm just going to walk. I'm going to feel and walk. That was my first commitment. Of
Mhm.
course, like then the poetry came and my body was, like, so happy with me. It was just, like, flexible. I remember just, like, my posture, flexibility, like,
Mm.
skin glowing, all the things. My creativity was like, "Wow." And it's laughable almost because I'm sitting here telling the world that you want to be more purposeful, live a fulfilled life, have that success you want. It might be by unplugging. It
Yeah,
might be
yeah.
by not surviving. It might be by stopping. And I wonder, for me, that was my story. I'm not saying it's everyone's story, but you said I stopped my brain and I stopped my life essentially. I didn't stop my life. I actually started living my life, but I
Mm.
stopped the craze
Cycle.
of yeah, I stopped the so there is something about a stop that I think is wonderful. Marta, we're gonna have this coffee chat for day. We're just gonna keep talking, but this is what we wanted to share today.
Yeah.
And there are many of you that are legit surviving because you have to, and good on you, and you're inspiring and amazing. And there are some of you who have forgotten that there's no need to survive anymore. And so, wherever you are on that spectrum, on that continuum, we're here. We love chatting with each other and with you. We love to hear from you. So, she is the Phoenix. She dot is dot the dot Phoenix at Instagram. I was like, "Where are we? I'm so lost in this conversation." Go see us on Instagram. Tell us your story. Stay connected. We're so excited to continue to have coffee. We're gonna have it whether you listen or not, by the way.
Hey, this coffee mug is not going anywhere, so
Yeah,
I'll be having that
exactly.
coffee with you every day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, take a picture of you and your coffee mug if you would and send it to us. Let us know you're listening, and it helps us to continue to share our light and be the light. So thank you so much. And Marta, once again, thanks for cruising in the field with me on the somehow our topics are always so similar when we're going through life in two separate states. Still haven't met in person yet.
Yep, that's gonna be a day, huh?
Yeah, yeah, but definitely swimming in the same sea, same ocean. So thank you so much for bringing the topic.
Yeah, thank you, Ushi. Thank you for listening. I hope it helped somebody maybe turn a little bit of that switch from survival to I'm alive, please share the stories with us. We would love to hear your success stories where you stopped the train
Yes,
and
and we would
paused
love
it at least.
yeah, and we'd love to have the musical rights to see it or play it right now, but since we
Wouldn't that be
can't,
something?
please go listen to
Oh, you're
her.
gonna sing now? Maybe you can sing
Oh,
to take
no,
us
that
out of
was
the No?
God gave me a different kind of voice, and I'll
Different
use
type
a
of skill, huh?
design voice, yeah. Yeah, I love singing in the shower, but anyways, no,
Thank
I'll
you,
let
guys.
Sia sing the song, and please do rock out to it, please continue to listen, and have a great week.
We'll see you guys next time. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider sharing it with your friends or family members who may also benefit from it. And please don't forget to subscribe and check us out on Instagram at Ashes to Love. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.